the Social Media Pulse community and the Facebook group and the Facebook page and the YouTube video and the Twitter. I don't know where we are. We're everywhere. And I'm very happy to welcome you to this. This is our Space Friend Camp Instagram Reels mission. So we are on a mission today to really demystify a lot of things about Instagram Reels. I know a lot of people, and it might not feel this way, but there are a lot of people who have not really gotten into the whole Reels and short form video arena. They're still holding back. And even though you feel like you're the last person to the party, you're really not. And so today we're going to really dive into all of that and make you feel more comfortable with the whole process. So I just want to welcome everybody in. If you're watching this live or in a replay, we have a wonderful panel here in front of us. You can already see their names, but we're going to talk a little bit about them in just a minute. Also, their full bio is available to you inside the community, inside the Social Media Pulse community. And we have links everywhere to get into that and to read all about them in case you don't know who they are. So anyway, so welcome, and we're very excited to be here. I just want to highlight a couple of things that are inside the community already. Deb, who is the best community manager on the planet, created this amazing space called Mission Control. And Mission Control is a post, and it just links all the posts that have to do with this particular camp. And we're calling this Summer Winter Camp. And if you like the whole kind of like idea of that, then you can go and you can see all the posts that have been made that are under this umbrella of camp. And Jen, Jen is one of our panelists today, and you kicked off the whole summer Space Friend Camp with this great video called Real Talk About Reels. And I thought that was funny, but anyway, and why it's still important for social media managers to really master this whole arena. And so if you're watching this panel, make sure you go and see that. We had this great guide on how to make Reels with fellow Dummies authors. Jen, you're a Dummies author too. There's a whole bunch of us in the community about how to make Reels that convert. So that's a really important one. Sarah gave us like a list of videos to create for Reels, which has been super helpful to me. Lori, who we're hoping to have join us in just a few minutes, posted this super easy Reels workflow, which is very important to have your workflow all set up. And Deb has been super brave, like going out and creating Reels just on the fly and doing a really great job with it. So there's some posts with her in there on how to use Canva to create Reels. And Jeremy, one of our star community members, shared his 5-step process for creating Instagram Reels for clients. There's more. I mean, like literally there is so much on that Mission Control post. I really hope you go in there and take a look at them. But this panel today will be exploring Instagram Reels, their value, the systems, the processes, all of the things. And hopefully you'll come away with some really actionable things you can do right away for either yourself or for your clients. So, and at the end of the discussion, I want to have some lightning round questions for everybody to really maximize your business goals. So are you guys ready to get to it? Hello, panelists, and welcome. So Jerry and Jen, you are here, and I am going to just let people go and look at your bios in the community, and let's just hit these questions, okay?
Okay.
Ready.
All right, Jen. So Jen, you're really well known for keeping up with all the new Instagram features. You have an amazing newsletter. And literally when I get your newsletter, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 15 new features on Instagram, right? And it's like, how is this possible? So you really get into those new things. So to sort of set the stage for everybody, most recently, there have been a lot of conflicting news about Reels. And are they as effective as they were in the beginning? What's happening right now? It seems like views are going down. Can you just kind of dive straight into that first?
Yeah, so it is confusing right now. And for the record, Adam Mosseri just came out recently and was like, he's the head of Instagram. And he was like, so we're going to roll things back after literally like 3 days before being like, here's a big change. So it is confusing and it's overwhelming. And the average person is like, I don't know what, like they hear half of these updates or they hear one update and they're like, well, then this is what's happening, but you just did this. And So it is very overwhelming, and it is something that, they're moving fast and breaking fast. So they are testing and they're rolling out features, and they don't, I think, even have they know an ultimate end goal, but they're kind of weaving and bobbing to get to that end goal. So we all kind of have to go along on the bumpy ride as they, make these changes. But with all of that said, obviously we've committed this month here, within the community to Reels. They are still valuable. That being said, there are these changes, right? So they're rolling out new features, and sometimes that glitches things. They've now moved all video to the Reels format, meaning if you take a video that's a 3.5-minute video and you upload it to Instagram, it's going to go into the Reels format. So that caused some glitching, and people are like, well, I can't do more than a 90-second reel, but I'm watching a 3-minute reel. What is happening? So there's been this confusion on the platform of like, I don't even know what is or isn't a reel. But pretty much at this point, if it's a video, it's going to be considered a reel, which means they're not going anywhere. Like, Instagram has gone all in on this. With the whole rollback, it's not getting rid of Reels. What they did was they rolled back a test layout. They were testing a more unified feed, and that was the one that, everyone was up in arms about, and it was fugly, and there was, dark mode this and light mode that, and it was overwhelming. So that's what they rolled back. They did not roll back anything on Reels. Reels is still that steam engine on the track running at full speed. So it's time to get involved. We're going to talk about so many things here today, but you definitely still want to do these. Reach and engagement are going to continue to be in flux. And I recently did a video on this over on my Instagram as to why reach across the board is down on Instagram right now. Like, legit, all posts, stories, feed, Reels, you name it. And it's for a multitude of reasons, not any one individual thing, but just learn your baselines. Get in there, do the Reels. If this reel gets 30 views and this reel gets 300, okay. Let's do more of what happened in the 300 view reel. Like, just play with it and be consistent for right now, and just getting some content out there, because it's so easy to be like, oh, I did a reel, it didn't work, and you walk away. But you can't do that right now on Instagram. You're going to have to stay committed and give it some time to figure it out. And then self-plug, follow the newsletter so you stay up on all the updates, because they're going to keep coming.
Yeah, your newsletter is awesome, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do all of that. It takes a lot of work, I know. And so, knowing all of that, Jerry, I know you like to work with businesses and educating people, and you have some inspiring things in there. So, knowing all of these changes on Instagram, and particularly with Reels right now, what's your take on it?
Reels are the greatest gift that businesses have gotten in since Facebook was born. This idea, and everyone's crediting TikTok. It was LinkedIn that first started showing other people's posts in feeds, but they didn't really move with it. But TikTok kind of proved like, hey, we want to hear from more than just the people that we're choosing to follow. And so we've been given this gift as marketers and business owners and brands and creators to reach people for free. It's like free ads. And, I saw Jen's video about, why reach is down. And a big part of that is because everybody's rushing there and putting out more content. And so when the algorithm on Instagram, if they've got 1 million videos to choose from when they're deciding what to show you, well, then you have, this percentage of chance. Well, now if all of a sudden there's 5 million videos or whatever it is, the chance of each of our videos is going down. However, I still think there's an incredible opportunity for people to get in there and be seen. And it's absolutely going to outperform anything that you're going to probably put up as a story or as a feed post. I'm yet to find anybody, no matter how small or big their following is, that are actually getting fewer views on their reels than they are in the rest of their content. So it's this incredible top of funnel thing. You can get in front of new eyeballs for free. As more people come, obviously that's going to still go down, but I don't think this shift to Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all of them showing content to non-followers is going anywhere, because they have the data. They know that when we open the app, if they're showing us the best stuff, from everybody instead of just the best stuff from our friends, we're going to stay longer. We get to the front of the checkout line and we're like, never mind, I'll come back, or whatever it might be.
No, I think this is a great point, Jerry. And you bring up this point about this whole thing about putting people that we don't know into the feed and really using that discover process and the algorithm and all of that. And I know personally that it's plus and minus in my side. As a consumer, sometimes I find amazing people that I want to follow because of that. And then sometimes I'm like, why is this in my feed? This is super weird. But as far as my clients go, they're super happy because they are discovered by a new set of people and their follower counts go up. And it's true that it's sort of hit and miss, like this whole thing about the 300 or the 3,000 and all that, because we'll put for clients, we'll have reels and shorts and Facebook reels. And it's like watching this like little thing go. It's like sometimes this one on YouTube takes off and sometimes this one on Facebook takes off and sometimes this one on Instagram, but not the same reel on all three accounts.
Yeah.
Never. It's like, what just happened? Like, it's very confusing. So as a strategist, it's like, yes, let's do that one again because maybe, you just never know. So Jen, I want to go a little deeper into how specific industries can maximize Instagram Reels. But first, let's talk about how social media managers can really utilize this. How can a manager help a client figure out a reel? How do they like pitch this to a client? Do they say, "Oh, we got to get on the trending videos," or are we just going to build everything from scratch? What does a social media manager say to a client?
Well, before you even do that, if you're going to be doing reels for your clients, you need to renegotiate your contract. I'm just going to put that out there. Because this is a whole new realm of content creation, and you are not being paid enough. And I say that because reels are complicated and they're easy, but they take a lot of steps. And it's video. So video creation is totally different than creating a simple image to throw up on a feed post, throw up a caption, and boom, you're done. Mm-hmm. But on top of it, you have to figure out when creating reels, are you creating the reel? Are they creating the reel and giving it to you and you're doing it? Are they sending you clips and you're putting together the video? How are you getting that content? And so if you're going to go down this world and you want to, because you do want to include reels in your client strategies, but you have to have a negotiation with your client about what that involves, how much time this is, how many you're creating, and what that looks like in terms of your contract and pricing as of now and then going forward. So off my soapbox on that, in terms of actually getting content from your clients, this is a hard thing. And most of our clients are not videographers. Most of our clients don't even know what to send you. So things you want to do is start putting together almost like a vision board, like kind of like you would go to Pinterest and be like, here's my ideal images for doing a photo shoot. You want to do the same thing for reels. Start finding examples that work for that client. So if you have a client that is a dog walker, go find other dog walking people that are doing good reels. Yes. If your client is, they have a widget or, work in an engineering space that's unique, go find some other people that are doing things in that space, but also in the B2C space that are fun that you can then emulate into that B2B space or something. You need to find examples to give your client and say, I need you to film a video that looks like this. I need you to give me video clips like this. Yes. Tell them what to give you. Also, most of them aren't going to want to do it even if you tell them what to do. So we have to incentivize.
Sounds like you've worked with a few clients there, Jen.
Never. And not that all the members, not all, but a lot of the members in my membership all are, agents. Like they do this. They have all their clients and stuff. And so these are things we talk about regularly at like office hours and things in my membership. But if you can incentivize your clients. So I've worked with, I worked with a boutique. They were a retail store, like a women's athleisure kind of retail store. And I was like, have a contest. Each location has to provide X number of pieces of content, and the store that wins will get this prize.
Awesome.
But what it did is, who cares who won? You had all 7 stores creating content.
Yes.
Because they were now incentivized. And once you do this a few months, it becomes normal. And then they just start doing it voluntarily. But you can't get them to just do it voluntarily if they don't know what to do, or it's never been done before and they don't know what to expect. So doing those internal contests, getting those internal incentives for the employees or the various locations to participate increases your response. And now you've got all this content that you can use over the next quarter and then do it again. And think
awesome.
about seasonal things and get them to be like, okay, we want to do something for, Christmas or Halloween or, Valentine's Day. Look at some of those trending audio things and be like, okay, here's a trending audio. We want to do something with this. Send this out to all of your employees and we'll pick a winner for who did the best, reel to match this trending audio. There's ways that you can incentivize them, and it takes the onus off of you as the social media manager to have to create everything. You're still going to have to do some, but this makes life a little bit easier at least.
Yes, and you just have to cross your fingers that the people at the stores kind of know what they're doing and can come up with something, right?
Well,
this is great. No, it's
if
awesome.
they send you the worst stuff, you can still clip it out. Like you can still find some things. And I've long said, like, for those people who are starting on Reels, if you don't feel comfortable on the platform, go film it in Instagram stories. Go into your stories camera, film it, because you're probably used to doing stories. Download that video and send that over, because that way it's already in the format. It's already, kind of optimized for the layout when it comes to a reel. But people know the stories buttons. They know the camera function. They're used to doing weird little selfies. And Reels is the exact same thing. I'm waiting for them to just merge Reels and stories one of these days.
That's going to happen, right? It's going to happen.
It has to happen. I'm like, they're the same thing, but they're totally different. It doesn't make any sense.
And if you use the story camera, they won't send you an 11-minute clip to do
right.
Another bonus.
So Jerry, I want you to talk about this too in terms of how a social media manager, and I just want to say that the reason I'm focusing on the social media manager is the social media pulse community is the community built for social media managers. And so that's why I have this focus today. But can you talk about, since you train people in businesses how to use Reels like this, like how does a social media manager learn to make a reel in a way that is efficient and is attractive to the audience right now? You actually have this really fun, strong point of view to be heard on social. Do you know what I'm talking about? Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah. Well, yeah, this was in a reel I put out a couple of weeks ago. And I say, this is my number one tip for business owners with Reels is you've got to have a strong point of view, and if we think about the predecessor of Reels or just this format in general, I remember when I first downloaded TikTok a couple of years ago, it was 10:30 at night. And I was just like, oh, let me see what this is all about. Right. And I opened it up and I think I watched videos for 2 hours. And I was like, and I think, and part of that is I have very like boring mainstream tastes. They were like, oh, guy in his 40s in America, here's the stuff you like. And so the algorithm didn't even need to learn me. I'm just very basic in that way. But I sat there and I watched 2 hours of videos. And the next morning my wife said, so what did you see? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. It was just great. It was just all kinds of great stuff.
Interesting. Yes.
And so every time we open any of these apps and we open Reels, you scroll and you scroll and you swipe and you swipe and you swipe. And in the end, it's like if somebody walked in and say, hey, see anything good today? You'd probably go, yeah. Oh, really? From who? Oh, I don't know. It is such a fast moving format. And so if you don't take the time to have a unique point of view on things, nobody's going to remember who you are literally 10 seconds later. Like that's how fast it's gone. And so I know when I open the Reels, app, sometimes I'm just seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And I couldn't tell you what any of it was later. So I think if we are marketing our clients' businesses or our own businesses, if you are a social media manager, you've got to have that unique point of view that not everybody else is doing. I mean, how many times have you opened Reels and 3 of the first 10 have the same audio track?
Yes.
Oh. So I encourage people, it's like use your own voice, both from your point of view, but like literally use your own voice as well. So that you don't look like everybody else or you're going to be forgotten a couple minutes later.
That branding piece is so important. And not only at the branding of the point of view, like the strong message that you might have in a reel, but I know now that I am amazed at how well I recognize people based on their camera angle. And there are some businesses and consultants and stuff, they have a unique camera angle and they always use it. And it's so different from the one before and after that I always stay there. And I think that's really important. It not only the messaging that you have is a strong point of view, but think visually, what can you tweak to make just a little bit unique in the feed where people will
That's why I
stop.
painted my wall pink. Because now I do all my photos and videos in front of this wall. So the moment you see this dusty rose, people know it's me. It was total branding.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think that it's really important for businesses to take a moment and think about that piece, right? So I think that's really, really important.
I have a I have a member, Christine, who teaches authors how to like get out of their head and write more. And I usually tell people, with certain types of content, you either want to look the same all the time, so it's recognizable, or you want to change it up. But she just has this. She's in front of a white wall. She always wears a black top, and she's got these like distinctive looking glasses. And now her face, as she's growing, is so recognizable that once, one of the, we talk about what people will stop in the scroll for, we'll always stop for a face that we recognize in general, unless we don't like that face, right? If it's an X,
Right.
oh, no. But in general, we'll stop for a face. And yeah, that's where I think that can be so, so powerful.
Yeah. So this is great. So Jen, you were talking about, video going in and automatically becoming a reel and all that. I know that you suggest starting with shorter reels if someone's new to it, right? Can you talk a little bit of the difference between a short reel and a long reel? And by the way, everyone needs to check out your training in the community. It's called Real Reels with Jen Herman, because it's a nice little mini training session in there. And I think that's awesome. So can you talk about that short and long reel aspect?
And they are very different. And this is something I always tell people when you're planning your reels, you need to be strategic for the intent of that reel. Who is it meant to reach? And that determines the length of the reel. So we're talking, like Jerry said earlier, we're talking top of funnel. Like reels are not going to be your high converting sign up for, a $2,000 program. Like that's not what reels do. Reels are top of funnel, get exposure, get awareness. The higher we go, the shorter the video. So these 7 to 15 second videos are not calls to action. They are not anything of high level value. They could be a quick DIY tip. They could be a quick little behind the scenes. They could be a fun video, a quick little, hey, meet the team. But like we're talking super short, super quick, super high level. These are going to be more entertainment value. And those are the ones that are going to go out to the new people who don't know who you are. These are the ones showing up in the Explore where you're scrolling through and they have a super short attention span because they don't know you. They are not going to watch you for 90 seconds. They're like, you get 5. And if I really like the first 5, I might give you 10. So it has to be with that in mind, creating the short reels for that super high level reach. Then as you get into the longer reels, now you're serving your existing audience. So yes, we all know brevity is not my strong suit. We all know I can max out a 10-minute video. The real talk about reels with me was supposed to be a 4-minute video. I think it's 12. Like, it happens. So I max out my 90-second reels, but I do those to serve my existing audience. Those are, they do get into some new, audiences, and I do pick up a little bit of new views off them, but they're not designed for that. They're designed for the people who are currently following me. And I'm like, here's a big update, or here's a big question. Here's the answers. And so I intentionally make those longer ones for my existing audience to serve them. Those now, they're not the super high funnel. They're like a row down on the funnel. They're still top of funnel for awareness, for expertise, for branding, that's getting people to be like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. That's not going to get somebody into my membership. That's still further down the funnel.
Yes.
But it's a lower level, getting a bit deeper with those longer ones. So if you are starting out on Reels, keep that in mind. If you're looking to serve your existing audience, 30 to 90 seconds. If you're looking to just reach new people and you just want views, you just want exposure to new audiences, 15 seconds and under, but is ideal, but 30 seconds and under, you can still usually work with for that.
That's awesome. So, Jerry, what are you seeing in terms of the length of typical reels at the moment? Are people using those longer reels? What are you suggesting to newbies inside of your audiences?
Well, it's funny in terms of what I'm seeing, how long they are. I have no idea because if it's boring, I swipe away, right? And I don't know if it's 90 seconds or not. Um, but
Good
in
point.
general, similar to what Jen said, it's like you gotta hook them in, and you gotta do it really quickly. And I think an important thing to remember with this is that people can generally only remember like one thing. They're only going to have one takeaway. And so, I have 12 to 20-minute YouTube videos and podcast episodes and all this long form content. And I had to adapt to Reels to kind of go, okay, and I like to talk like Jen, like I could talk about this stuff all day. And so I had to adapt to this format where it's like, especially top of funnel, where it's like, you got to get their attention, you got to give them something, and then that's it. And so, I mostly tell people, try and keep it under 30 seconds. You got to have that hook at the beginning to get right into it. But the biggest thing again is that people can only usually remember one thing. The example that I always like to use was when minivans first came out, and the first minivan they had that had a door on both sides, like the sliding door. Whichever company that was, they ran a Super Bowl ad. They spent millions and millions of dollars, and the only thing in the ad was, "Hey, we got a door over here." Nothing about the engine, the mileage, nothing. We've got a door over here, and they sold millions or whatever of those vans because of that. But they knew you could only remember one thing. If they come in and they go, "All right, fuel economy," you don't remember any of that stuff.
Yeah, good
So
point.
they just wanted to be that one van.
Yeah,
that's
such a good point. Go ahead.
I was just going to say to that point, you mentioned the hook, right? Like one of the things with what a lot of people are so used to when we have these long form videos, when you've got your YouTube videos and everything, you're used to coming in and, hi, we're here with Camp
up,
Space
guys?
Friend and we're all here. Womp womp. Like no one's sticking around. Like when you're doing these, 8, 10, 12-second reels, there is no intro. There is no introduction to who you are and what you're talking about. Like you got to come in hot and even put text up on the screen that's like, this is the question that I'm answering, or this is what we're doing. Like you got to make them want to stay past that swipe. So it is, give them that one thing and come in hot with it.
Yeah, that's super great. That whole idea of like a YouTube template script for video just does not work with Reels at all. It's so true. So now, Jerry, I have a question for you. So Carrie Walker said inside the Space Camp space that it's important to think of Reels as short video because the term Reels sort of is very intimidating to a lot of people. And she was trying to make the point that sometimes it's just a mindset change of getting over that hump of doing or not doing Reels or short form video. So what are your thoughts about that sort of mindset thing that a lot of businesses are still stuck in?
Well, the reason that Reels are so intimidating is, some of the most impressive, entertaining videos in the world are coming up from people that aren't in the creative industry necessarily. They're clearly creative in our feed. And so, when we used to open Facebook or Instagram and you'd see some stuff from people you were following or whatever, and you're like, oh, I can do that. But now we are literally seeing the best content in the world over and over and over again. And we're seeing this fancy editing. We're seeing, famous people, we're seeing Ryan Reynolds making Reels and, all of this kind of stuff. And we're like, how do I get into that? And that's why I think it's so intimidating. So I love the idea of just thinking of them as videos. And I also love what, Jen said about earlier of just thinking of them as Instagram stories. And one of the things that I've been seeing with people is when they just kind of take the pressure off, you can create more content and find out what works much faster than if you sit down and you go, all right, I got to have a twist transition and I got to have a trending song and I got, all of these different things. And I believe that, the right words are the most important thing in the world. I love this Space Camp thing because I run a thing every year called Content Camp where I help people generate this list of 50 powerful content ideas. But it's all about saying the right things. And, when you have the right words, like I remember somebody that was in my content camp in May, they literally posted their homework on their Facebook profile. And they said, hey, here's some things that I've been writing in my business in this content camp. And she had 2 people reach out and hire her from her homework. No graphics, no video, nothing like that. So,
isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So that's where I think, think of it as a video. It's a vertical video and then just focus on saying the right thing. that you need to get attention, stand out, have that strong point of view.
I think that's awesome. So thank you very much for that. And I think we have Lori, who's our other panelist, who is in here. I'm going to bring Lori up, and then I'm going to catch her up with a couple of things and have her say a few things, and then we will keep it moving. So let's see if I can get Lori in here. Lori, are you there?
Hey.
Yay, but now can we hear you? No, we can't hear you, but we're close.
There's like a little blip of audio. There was something there.
It's
Nope. Nope.
Can you
Oh,
hear me
It's
now?
like in and out. It's like
yeah, it's like a loose wire somewhere. So I'm going to let you.
To do this is all new to me. This has been a very
All right, so it's a lag.
you-
It looks like it's a bandwidth lag. So I'm going to keep you up, but I'm going to hope that we can maybe, if from your side, close down every single thing you have going on except for this. All right, so I want to go back to the questions real quick here. And Jen, we had an interesting poll inside of Space Camp last week where we asked people, what do you do? Do you find trending music and pick that? Or do you find something related to the video and then go look for music for that? So this is a music question. And so because Reels, yeah, I mean, you can listen to Reels on mute. I mean, you can, but if you unmute them, the music is a big player in Reels many times. So in the poll, 60% of the people who responded said that they were always looking for the perfect music to match the video they had already created. Whereas 40% were they're looking at the trending video and they create a video to use that music. So, what are you finding and what do you suggest people do?
So first of all, I love that more people are finding the right audio than trying to film videos to match. So I just want to give high fives, all the high fives virtually to everybody in the community. I mean, it's fun to do the trending audio, right? It's easy in the sense that, okay, here's the audio, great, film something to match that and call it a reel. That it works, and trending audio is a great way to show up in those explorers and get that additional exposure. But if you're creating content for your brand, about your brand, to sell your products or services, it's about you. And that comes with finding the right audio that augments the video that's the right video for your audience.
Great.
And sometimes trending audio can work. But it's sort of like, even like I'll do a reel when I take my daughter to the zoo and I'm like, okay, what jungle music can I find? Like, because I'm at a zoo and I want something that's like, Lion King or something. I don't know. But like,
right.
There's something creative, and I am not musically inclined. Let me just put this out there. Okay. I'm the least musically inclined person you're ever going to meet. But there's something of value in finding the right music that when you're watching that video, it just lifts everything up. You get the goosebumps because you get the emotions out of it, or you get amped up. You're like, yeah, let's do this, because it's like hype music. And when that all comes together, that is a masterpiece. Even if it's an 8-second video, that is something that is so powerful and goes back to similar to what Jerry was saying about, having that opinion, like coming out and creating your content and standing on your own 2 feet, creating that original content, matching up the audio and making it your own. It's harder. It takes a lot longer. I'll spend 30 minutes just trying to find a stupid audio track and then match up where I want it to land and all things. But
Yes.
It's worth it when you look at that end piece of content. And so it doesn't have to be all the time. But yes, I think it's great that was the overall results.
So that's great. So Jerry, what do you think about those numbers? I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but let me know.
Well, I definitely love the way that the numbers were tilted. I too have gone down a music rabbit hole and, tried to look for the perfect thing. I love that we even have this as a resource, though, that you can find this and even use commercial music. Sometimes when I'm saying what I say, you put that right music bed behind it and it's like, wow, that sounds even cooler now, But as far as the trending audio goes, I mean, sometimes it's quick and it's easy. And I think it's a nice entry point for people that don't, are afraid to use their voice or things like that. But I think it's the thing that needs to fall by the wayside quickly in your strategy, unless the reel again helps you, or the audio again helps you with your main goals. And so like there was one, I don't know, a month or two ago, and it was just this woman saying, tell us one thing you say that makes people mad or that's controversial or something like
Yes.
that. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I was
Great
like,
meme,
oh,
yeah.
great. Yeah. And so I did that one, and I looked at the camera and I said, if you're a business owner, you should start and only focus on one social network and no more. You're going to do, because that's one of my core principles, is you're going to grow way faster if you're, the governor of Instagram instead of trying to be, a citizen everywhere else. And it did really well. And so when it serves the purpose of what I want to do, that's great. But otherwise, just, doing them because they're funny. I mean, if you got all the time in the world, great. But as my friend Natalie said to me once, that's time you could be spending with your kids or your wife, instead of watching a 10-hour
right music.
Yeah, and it's funny and it's true. And one of the ones that's trending right now is that one that says, Instagram says we must make reels, but I'm a rebel, so here's a picture for
that
a
I turned
reel.
into a reel.
Yeah, which I even did because it's sort of the rebel in me, because I'm such a photograph-centric person personally. So I miss the photographers on Instagram, but that's a completely different topic.
But I do like that reels now support photos. Like that wasn't a thing. When reels, you had to upload a video. So if you wanted a photo to be a video, you had to video edit the photo elsewhere and then upload that to a reel. But now you can put photos into a reel and make it essentially a video, whether it's putting music over it, whether it's in text or anything. So there are ways that, again, if you're not the video creator, if you are the old-fashioned, I want to create a photo and that's all I want, there's still ways you can build that into a reel.
Yeah, I can imagine there are a lot of business owners who would like to put up just an image and maybe do a narrated voiceover for that reel. And I think that's a perfectly fine thing to do and test out and work on. I'm going to attempt to bring Lori back on. So Lori, I'm going to bring you back on. Let's test your mic again. So here you are.
Can you guys? Here you are. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
The bandwidth.
No.
But I want to try something. You have earbuds, if you could put them on, because we are getting feedback.
I don't have.
But I have a question here specifically for you that I would like for you to address if we can get the tech to work. And
better?
You sound better. Yay. It's good. Okay, so here's a question for
me back?
Yes. Okay. So let me ask you the question. So recently you posted in Space Camp super easy reel workflow and reels basic walkthrough where you outlined 6 steps to create reels. How much is it that people don't understand the steps to creating a reels? Like which button to click where did they hide the music, all of that. Or is it the steps to come up with the strategy or the idea for the reel? Which problem do you see the most?
I see, honestly, my clients, most of my clients, primarily women over this, with the, first, what do I do? Second, once I the strategy and coming up with is say it and do I have to dance? So it's kind of, it starts with into the strategy.
That I got the gist of that. We're still having bandwidth issues for you. So I'm going to go ahead and keep you up. And then if you can talk in the chat if you'd like and add some things there. That would be great. I'm going to go ahead and mute your mic, and you can do the sign language with us and chat in the thing. That would be awesome. So I'd like to ask both of you that. Jen, do you think it's mostly people learning which button to push, or is it more about the strategy?
And I think in the grand scheme, it really is both. I think because reels are so new, even though, to Jerry's point, they're not that new. It's just a new medium. I think a lot of people struggle with both, right? Like they feel like to create a reel, they have to do, like you were saying, this all these fancy transitions, and they have to do these jumps, and they have to do the starts and the stops. And I'm like, girl, I'm over here. I'm a one take upload. Like I'm not doing anything funky on mine. I'm like, I'm lucky if I throw a filter up on it. But it doesn't have to be complicated. And so I usually tell people, focus more on the general strategy, right? Like figure out what your intent is. Why are you using Reels? Are you trying to get the views? Are you trying to grow your audience? Like, what are you trying to do with it? And then, like we talked about earlier, pick the right length of reel to do that. And then just do them. Like literally just do them. If it's a one take, it's fine. If you throw up a quick filter, if you're having a hard time figuring out, because putting up the text that comes in and comes out and it's over here and it's over here and you're doing all the pointing, that gets a little more advanced. If you feel like that's too much for you, don't do that. I know. It's like literally, I don't even do these ones. I'm like, I can't keep up with this. But don't kill yourself trying to do all the things. Get into Reels, do a video, add a filter, upload.
Yes.
Get comfortable doing that, picking the audio, doing those things. Then add the next thing. Very similar to, Jerry was just saying, you can't be a master of all. So start with one thing, get really comfortable with just doing the videos, upload it, and then slowly add in these other features. And then when you look at someone else's reel and you see they have a really cool transition, be like, okay, so now that I'm comfortable here, if I do this, I can make that work. You'll get more advanced. No one's going to come out of the box, creating these amazing, like some of these reels we see can take 2 hours or more to create. Like they are big productions for a 15-second video. Don't feel like you have to set that expectation for yourself. Just start.
Yeah, that's great. So I totally agree with all of that. And Jerry, do you have advice to people who are either afraid to click the buttons or can't figure out where the buttons are, or, just that whole idea of the technical aspects of creating reel? What's your advice with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is mindset, like we talked about earlier. Like it's just a vertical video, and you can literally film it on something that's in your pocket, right? Go outside, get good lighting, and film it. And it's that simple. But I think it's good to admit and point out that Instagram is notorious for having very few instructions available, right? Like most of the tutorials on how to use Reels, stories, or whatever come from content creators like Jen or I. And so there's all these features. And even now, even though I'm in there all the time, I'll watch a YouTube video and it's like hacks you didn't know. And I'm like, oh, we'll see. And then I get in there and I'm like, what is that? How did you find that? It was no press release or anything. So
then they move the buttons every 3 weeks just to keep us on our toes.
Yes. Yeah. Where is this now? And so I think, I think it's good to just acknowledge that I don't think you should necessarily feel like, oh, I should know how to use the buttons. Nobody should feel bad about that. But as Jen talked about, it's like open, once you get to the Reels screen, hit record and then hit post. Like, and that's how simple it can be. And guess what? Here's the great thing. If it's bad, nobody will see it. They won't show it to anybody. And if it's good, you'll reach a bunch of new people, and you'll be like my friend Aaron that had one video take off and he went from 60 to 450 followers in 2 days from one reel of his perfect people. So that's the thing that can happen if we're consistent and we get on there, and it does not have to be anything super fancy.
Well, that actually brings up this new point, and that is, Jen, what's your favorite type of reel to produce, either for yourself or for your clients? Like, what's your favorite type of Instagram reel?
Well, you can go look at my Instagram account and they're all the exact same. They were a one-take education long form video. Because that's the only kind of videos I can create, people. But from my business perspective, yes, all of my reels are literally me like talking to camera about an Instagram update or, a trending news story about Instagram. Like when they were like, hey, we're going to roll things back. Like, so most of my reels are longer, 60 to 90 seconds. They're essentially a one take. I might film like a couple seconds and then I like get closer to the camera and then I go back over here. So it might be a 3-stop, but it's essentially, I don't move. I'm not doing crazy transitions. I'm not putting anything, super creative in there because my content is educational content. But I do, I help my members or clients get much more creative. Like I said, I'll do some reels when I go to, like, when I'm traveling or something, and I'll stitch together all the different things and put in different audio components and stuff. But from a brand perspective, mine are just, they're shorter versions of my other long form videos, because that's just what works for my audience.
That's great. Just think of them as shorter versions of your long form video. And that's a great kind of like idea to capture how to do this. So Jared, can you tell us your favorite type of Instagram reel and how do you set it up?
Well, I've only lip synced once to a song because one of the things I teach is how to romance the algorithm, I call it, because you can't hack or trick the algorithm, right? You just got to work
Yes.
with it or don't
Yes.
bother. So I call it romancing the algorithm. So I did, lip sync to a Backstreet Boys love song. But my favorite type of reel to make, and this is just so simple and easy, and almost anybody can do this, is if they've added this feature in recent months where you can reply to a comment with a reel. And I haven't started fully implementing this yet, but when somebody asks a question in the comments, I'll turn around and make it a reel, and it puts it on the screen in a nice social graphic. It's social proof. It's your hook. Like, it's all there, and you just hit record and answer it and you're done. And so one of the things that I'm looking to implement in my business in the coming weeks is maybe once a month, email my list and just say, hey, my members can ask me questions anytime, but if you're not my member, go post your question on this reel, and then hopefully get 30 pieces of content that I can use from it, because that is, it's just so simple. So that's my favorite for sure.
That's great. I haven't tried that yet, but that seems like it would be a super easy thing for people to try out.
Yeah, and it shows up as a comment, your reply in the original reel, but then it also shows up as a new reel on your profile.
That's awesome. So that's new. That was probably one of Jen's newsletters I missed. So that's awesome. So Lori actually put in the chat her favorite type, and she says her favorite type of Instagram reel is the short spoken word, similar to Jen's, one topic at a time, simple, one take, add some captions to emphasize the points, and that's it. And it's true that that's like some of the most powerful reels are just exactly that format, right? So I think that's great. So thank you very much for doing that. So I want to take a moment and see if we can answer some questions that have come in during this panel. And the first one I want to bring up is from Vicky. And her question is, how many, how often, daily, multiple times daily? Because, originally, we got hit with that thing. Well, you need to make 15 posts and 18 stories and all of that. And so, Jen, can you talk about that first?
Sure. So I always tell people, look, when it comes to anything on Instagram, create as much as you can while creating high quality content and keeping yourself sane. That's the recipe for success. Okay. That could be 1 a month. That could be 12 a day. I mean, depends on your sanity level. So it really, there is no magic number. Now, that being said, when it comes to like stories, if you can have something up there, in every 24-hour window, that's ideal.
Yeah.
Reels kind of go into the more is better capacity, but not to that level. Like, if you're creating a reel every single day, is it high quality? Is it serving your audience? Is it serving your strategy? Or are you doing it to check the box that I made a reel? I would rather you create 1 reel a week that is well thought out, strategic, intentional, and serving your audience than have you do a bunch just for the sake of doing them. That being said, the more, the better. So if you can do 1 a week, great. If you can do 2 a week, great. I would not do multiple daily. That would be overwhelming. You're going to saturate your audience too much. But aim for, if you're posting 3 to 5 times a week on Instagram, have 1 or 2 of those a week be a reel. If you're posting twice a week on Instagram, then have 1 of those be a reel. So you want to have a regular, consistent presence with reels, but don't feel like you have to go all in. Do not feel like you should not ignore everything else. You don't want to ignore feed. You don't want to ignore stories, but you definitely want to get in there and give yourself enough time, like 4-6 weeks of creating reels regularly, to find your baseline, because you're going to have outliers, and we're going to have those glitchy weeks where all of a sudden everyone's reach is, cut by 1/10. So who knows until you've done 4 to 6 weeks to really know what's working for you.
That's a great point about doing the test long enough to see a good result. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. So Jerry, what do you think about all of that in terms of how often, daily, multiple times?
Well, I think an important thing to keep in mind, earlier this year, Instagram came out and they said, people are now spending 20% of their time in the Instagram app on Reels, like it's up to 20%. And what I heard was people are spending 80% of the time on Instagram in stories and DMs and in the feed. So while Reels are this great opportunity, like we've been talking about, we can't ignore the rest. Now, on the next earnings call, they came out and they said, now this Reels are up like 30% from what they were, and I didn't know how to do the math from 20%.
Right, I'm like, wait, is that way?
It's not like you just add them together. It was more complex than that. And so, they're always vague on these calls. So I think it's important to remember the other aspects of it. So I love what Jen said. It is a quality over quantity game. And I, earlier this year, to kind of create some content and learn from it for my audience, I did 30 reels in 30 days. I posted a reel every single day. Part of it was also to get over my own perfectionism, because even though I sit there and I say today, like, oh, just hit record and put it up, I couldn't do that myself, right? I struggled with that. But I did see the number one reaching reel of the 30 days was the one that I put up on the last day. And I do think it was because they were sabotaging each other, right? So one would go up and then the next one would come out and it would either kill the previous one or, and that one would die out. And so I was getting consistent views for 29 days. And then the one on day 30 was 5 times more. And then I put up another one 3 days later and it was at that level as well. And I'm sure momentum was part of it, but I think there is such a thing as posting too much. And I know there are people out there saying, oh, you got to put up 5 a day and figure out what works. And I mean, I guess if you had zero audience, like you were starting from zero and you're not worried about like driving your regular followers out of the feed, taking you out of their feed, then maybe you could play with that. But in general, that's insanity. And for your own sanity, as Jen said, which I loved.
This is great advice. And it reminds me of when Twitter first came out, and I would tweet like 10, 15 times a day, and inevitably somebody would come on and says, you're the only person in my feed. Why are you tweeting so much? I'm like, because you're only following me, So you have to follow more people, and then the feed like becomes normal. And I think that's great. Challenges are so good for people to get over their own resistance to doing new things. And I think that's great. And I think a challenge is always a good thing to incorporate if you are having those problems with either mindset or technical problems, and just to do it. I think that's great. So Lori put this in here too and answered this. And she said, as often as you can do it and be consistent and just allow some room to breathe in between the posts so they don't step on each other. So that's exactly the whole point of that. And it's true that you need to find the right rhythm for you and your audience through time. So I think that's really important. So thank you very much for that question, Vicki. I really appreciate you putting that in there. And she also asked where Mission Control is. And if you're joining us later, you're watching this in a replay. Mission Control is a post inside a social media pulse community. And we have the link right in the chat. And if you have any problems finding it, just let me know and I can help you take care of that. All right. So back to our questions. We are in the lightning round questions now. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we're right on time for that. For the first lightning round question, now this is just, answer in a sentence or two, and that's it. All right, so Jen, who is doing a fabulous job with Reels that we can go learn from right now?
I hate this question. So this is one of those things, because there's so many random like little good ones and everything. But I think one of the favorite people I like right now is at Rome, ROME Johns, JOHNS, all one word. It's Rome Johnson. He actually does social media for Microsoft. I had him in the membership group. But he's got a daughter that has a unique health condition. So he shares a lot of like what it's like. He calls them caregiver chronicles, and what it's like going through her surgeries. And he's got all these, almost all of his videos are reels, and he does a lot of them. And he does shorter and longer ones. So it's a really good way to just go in and see what normal reels creation looks like. They're not crazy transitions, but it's some good inspiration for just creating everyday content.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for that. Jerry, who's doing a fabulous job with Reels that we can go learn from right now?
I want to share two people, but they have the same name, so it should be easy. They're both named Chelsea. One of them is a vegan weight loss coach in New Zealand, and her name is Chelsea May McCullen, and it's CHLSEAMAECULLEN. She is just killing it on Instagram and is actually recently, we've had a conversation. She simplified her reel strategy to do more of kind of a, rip and read style as opposed to before where she was doing more production value. And then the other one, her name is Chelsea Peitz, and she actually does social selling with real estate agents. Yeah, Jen knows Chelsea. And it's Chelsea, CHELSEA.Peitz, PEITZ. But both of them are doing really cool things.
Awesome. And Lori just answered this question too in the chat. And she said the folks at You Need a Budget does a great job at showing their audience how they can think and feel and do if they use their budget product. They talk about all kinds of things like how to save money on groceries, using emojis to make fun. And their reels are simple and easy to figure out how to do so similar for yourself. So it's not very complicated too. So You Need a Budget. That's great.
Is that their username? Is at You Need a Budget? You know what that username has? A strong point of view. Like right there.
Awesome. Right?
That's awesome. So Jen, what do you think will come next for Instagram Reels?
I honestly don't know what's going to come next because I don't know what is in that magic hat that they keep, just pulling things out and randomly deciding on things. But I think we will see in the future, we're going to see link stickers coming. The whole reason we moved from the swipe up on stories to sticker was because it's going to go on Reels. Whether that happens tomorrow or next year, I don't know, but that's definitely coming. And they'd better, I'm sure they will, give us better insights. If they want creators to continue to use Reels, we need insights that actually tell us information so that we can create the right content for audiences. So I predict those two at some point in the near future.
That's great. So Jerry, what feature do you think will come next for Instagram Reels?
When you asked the question, my first thought was something they're going to borrow from TikTok.
Of course.
But
I thought, what's the TikTok feature?
Yes. I don't know. I was thinking links, but I think the biggest thing to know for marketers and business owners and social media managers is, I think that Reels are going to, that space is going to get more crowded. But then, like a lot of things, like I think email marketing is sort of making this resurgence now, right? And so like a lot of things, it'll get crowded and then it'll settle down. And I think the people that are consistent throughout are going to really see the benefits. And Instagram has said, we're going all in on video repeatedly. And so for photography lovers like you, Phyllis, I mean, that's video is definitely.
We all went to Vero, so it's okay. The photographers are finding themselves on Vero.
I figured you had a place, where you went, but this is where things are going, and I don't see it changing in the next couple of years, at least.
Right. And we asked the question to Lori too, what feature do you think will come next for Instagram Reels? And she says, I don't know what's coming next, but I would really love to be able to create and edit from my desktop. And this would make things more user-friendly for my clients. And it's true. And the more features we get to be able to use on desktop, I think the better it is for social media managers in particular. So I think that's really great. Great. All right, last lightning round question, and this will cap off our panel discussion today. Jen, can you give me 3 quick tips as a recap of everything we talked about today so people can take something away from all of this?
Absolutely. 1, do them. 2, be intentional. Get out there and be strategic. Think about what you're doing and what you're creating. And 3, experiment. Don't be afraid to try new things. Like just get out there, play with the buttons, upload, hit publish, do it.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. And Jerry, can you give me 3 quick tips as a recap of everything we talked today?
Yes. 1, get over perfectionism. Just make it as casual as you can to get started. If you start having fun, you want to get fancier later, you can always do that, but you don't have to start that way. 2, make sure that it reaches your business goals and not your e-goals, which is a mediocre word I made up for your ego goals. Everybody is trying for reach. And one of the definitions of viral is that it appeals to everybody. but most of our businesses are targeting a small audience. And so I think it's really important to make sure, and the same thing that Jen was saying about, make sure it's aligned with what you're trying to do. And then the last thing is figure out, what is your strong point of view? How are you different from other people? What are you going to say differently? And as my friend Kim said, as we were talking about trying to, be less apologetic and more like, you need to do this, she says, get off the subtle bus. So
Nice.
I encourage everybody to get off the subtle bus in your business and stand out, because it's a busy field out there.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And then Lori has her 3 quick tips as a recap. She says, number 1, any niche, any age can have success with Instagram Reels. And as the over 60 demographic here in the group, I know that this is true, but it's definitely something to look into. And then the second tip is find others in your niche and follow them for inspiration. I think that's a really good thing to do in every social site, and especially on Instagram Reels, and use them as models to try and test things out. And then her third tip is don't worry about it being perfect, just do it. So I think that's been the overarching advice that we're all giving everybody, is just relax about it. Don't think of them as something that has to be perfect, and just get in there and do it. And I appreciate everyone in here today in the panel, and everyone who asked questions today and all the things. And I really appreciate you watching. If you're watching here as a replay, or if you're watching live, I really appreciate you too. And for some reason, my mouse is stuck. And so I'm going to say
Stream your
thank
house
you.
all day.
I know. It worked all the way up to 1 minute before we're done, which is super interesting. So, Lori, it's not only you having technical difficulties today. So I really appreciate all your insights today. Jen and Jerry and Lori, I really appreciate you. And thank you so much for all you do in the world. You're a great inspiration to me and many other social media managers all over. And so thank you, everybody. Back to work. Let's go play. All right.
Thank you.